Hi, I'm Olivia Hicks.
And I'm Antonia Hicks.
And this is our Uncle's Studio.
Hi, I'm Lester Barnes, and you're joining me here in my studio in London. I'm the composer for Horrid Henry and the music in the shows. I've written 250 of the episodes so far, and I thought you might like to see how the music's put together.
How do you start an episode of Horrid Henry?
Good question. Sometimes I'll watch the whole episode all the way through without doing anything and just get an idea of the story, how things are playing out, and what characters are doing, the sort of things that are going on. Other times I might just keep it as a surprise, so I'll watch it and score it as it goes along. So I'll watch the opening 30 seconds and then decide what's going to happen musically with those characters that are coming on. Sometimes that makes it more exciting, that you don't know what's going to go on, and that keeps the energy going sometimes, that the unexpected can come in and surprise you when you least expect it. But it's from the beginning to end. It's a very slow process, gradually putting little bits together, adding to them, reviewing it all to see if it all balances and that everything's working all right. And then finally setting it off for approval, and then we make some slight changes when the final animation comes along, so we can adjust timings a little bit, move bits around. But I'll show you in the demonstration how that works in a minute. Here we are in the studio. This is a bit of software called Logic, which is what I create all the music for Horrid Henry on. You'll see down the screen we have a list of different instruments here, and there's about, I think, over 100 different instruments here that I can click and call up, and then via the piano keyboard I can play the sounds of those instruments on the piano. So we could call up the obvious one, a piano. Or, for example, if I didn't want a piano, let's have an acoustic guitar maybe. Or any other instrument you can think of. Chugging guitars. Drum kit. But likewise, the woodwind instruments. The music to every Horrid Henry episode is completely different, and every single episode has music specially written to it, but there's one section that occurs in every single episode which is almost the same, not quite, and that's the section where Henry realises that things aren't going to go quite his way, and he does the big yell, no, which is followed by na 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 na, the riff that takes us into the episode. So I'm going to show you how that's put together, because even though it's similar each episode, they're all slightly different, maybe slightly faster, different keys, and the lengths are slightly different from the two sections. So if we look, here's the section without any music, Henry's reaction to being told he can't have his way.
Pocket money for a week, a month, a year.
And here it comes. And then we're into the next section, which will be the na 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 over the Horrid Henry title page for this episode, which is Demon Dentist. So there are two sections, the yell and then the resolve afterwards, where we get the title card here. So, two different bits of music. One builds as he yells, and the second bit plays the na 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 with guitars and drums and all the rest of it. So, let's start putting together the instruments that are going to make up that section of music. So the first thing I'm going to do is call up the bass guitar, and we're going to use the key of D today, but we're going to pedal on what we call A, which is here on the piano, and we're just going to play some bass notes based on A to build up a rhythm and take us into the next section. So let's just give this a go. You'll hear a click happening, which is the episode. Here we go. So we listen to that back. Actually, we're going to turn Henry off now because he's so loud we can't actually hear what's happening. So you have to imagine he's yelling. So there's the bass line coming in. An extra note at the end there. So now we're going to add to that. We're going to put in, just going to mark out where the tune na 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 comes in, which is going to be halfway through it. So we're going to put that on piano. Okay, starting to get there. Now we need to add some drums to that. So we're going to call up a drum patch. So let's put some drums in. Basic. Let's add some hi-hats, which are the small cymbals next to the snare drum. This time we'll add some tom-toms. Okay, we're going to add cymbals now. Okay for a rhythm section, but now we're going to put an electric piano, just to give us a little bit more. Now we're going to add a Hammond organ. But that still doesn't quite sound like Henry enough, so we need to put some chugging electric guitars just to give it a bit of a heavy rock sound. And I think we still need more guitar. We need the guitar to play, lead guitar to play the top line. And then another guitar to play a harmony line. Okay, so that's that section almost done. And it's sounding pretty full, but the beginning doesn't sound quite so interesting. So what we're going to do is we're going to add something that makes more of a build there. Something that echoes Henry's angry yell. So we're going to call up a timpani, which is a big orchestral drum with quite a low note in it as well. You'll see them in all kinds of music, orchestral music mainly, but also in a lot of film scores as well. And this is a timpani crescendo, so it's rolling the drums, but gradually increasing it in volume. So we'll end up with... So if we add that at the beginning, when Henry begins to scream, you'll start to get a bit more of a swell into the music. Okay, and then another drum we're going to add. This is a very, very low, this is a big orchestral bass drum. So as though the timpani is quite low and you can hear a note there, the orchestral bass drum is so low it's almost like a pulse. It's almost like thunder in the room. So right at the end there, when almost it's got to the loudest point that Henry's yelling, we're going to add a big thunderous bit to go with the drums. That comes right at the very end, so we're going to put that in now. Right underneath. And of course, to echo Henry's yelling, we're going to put some strings playing a trill, which is between one or two notes. So it's kind of like playing. But on the strings, that will sound like this. So that gives us a little bit more of the scream, as if Henry is musically screaming as well as yelling in real life. So let's add that as well to the mix. And that just leaves one more thing to add, and that is a great big gong. And that's going to happen just between the two changes, between Henry yelling and going into the na 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 na. So here it comes, last level. And there you have it. That is all the layers that go into Henry's atomic yell, as we can see on the screen here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 layers of instruments to make the one yell. That's for about 7 seconds of music.
Who is your favourite character?
My favourite character? Henry obviously is pretty cool.
You can call me Henry. Horrid Henry.
And I love scoring for Henry and all the fun and games that he gets up to. But next to that, strangely enough, Fang is such a fun character to write with. Because he doesn't speak as well, it means that the music has to lead the way. So the music becomes more of a feature, almost the voice of Fang sometimes as well. So when he's running around or saving the day or getting up to mischief, Fang's quite a fun character musically to write for. So I think Fang would be my next choice.
Yeah.
Do you ever struggle with writing music?
I think there are times when, if you're tired, perhaps it takes a little bit more time to get into an episode and to get the work done. But I think normally it's a pretty progressive thing. You start working on a scene, you see that through, that gives you inspiration to write the next section, or the storyline carries itself along so that you're drawn by the narrative to want to continue to the end, or the point at which a character wins or fails or does something. But there are always little occasions where you think, well, what's going to be the right thing to go here in this scene? And sometimes I resort to a little bit of randomness, which is I lay my hands on the keyboard and start playing a few notes, and it may be random. And then you think, oh, maybe something will come out of that, and you find a little riff or a little melodic idea or a chord, which is unusual.
So, how do you get your inspiration for the music?
Inspiration? Good question. Very much the action, the characters, what characters doing what, so they have musical identities of their own, so each character has either an instrument or a pair of instruments that represents them, and their characters come out in a way that echoes the musical style, perhaps that is typical for them, so the way Peter moves around is different from the way that Henry does. Al runs at a different speed to Moody Margaret, so characters have their own little musical identities and things, which helps.
How long does it take to write an episode of Horrid Henry?
How long? On a good day, because it does depend on the episode, how busy it is, whether there's lots of delicate writing that needs to be written or whether it's more of an easygoing episode. Roughly 10 to 12 hours solid writing, that's without a break.
And I care because...
The quickest I think I've ever written one was about 8 hours, start to finish. But when I first started writing them and we were developing the style of music and how it came together, and technology wasn't quite as good back in the days when we first started it took me 10 days to write the first 10 minutes. So that's like a minute a day working on each bit, gradually getting it together. But that's developing the style as well, which is, to begin with, always takes a lot longer. And once you've developed the style, you can then continue to write in that vein for further episodes. So I'd say roughly 10 to 12 hours solid work. I hope you enjoyed that, and hope that it gave you a bit of an insight into music production and how music for Horrid Henry is put together. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for watching. See you soon.